This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutastrophe. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on the State. And on this day, June the 16th, 1998, the Detroit Red Wings finished off an improbable 4-game sweep of the Washington Capitals. So much so that this is the last time that the Stanley Cup Finals have ended in a sweep. As of this taping, because as of this taping, the Oilers are in danger of being swept themselves by the Panthers. Regardless of that, the 98 playoffs were huge. The Red Wings were defending Stanley Cup champions, and Washington were a plunky team from the Eastern Conference, and all that. This would actually be Scotty Bowman's 8th Stanley Cup as a coach, winning the cup in 73, 76, 77, 78, 79 as a member of the Habitants. The Penguins in 1992, people forget about that because he took over for an ailing Bob Johnson, and the Red Wings in 97. He would get his 9th cup as head coach in 2002. However, the Detroit Red Wings had a massive motivation. They did win the cup in 1997 to end 42 years of drama. However, a week after sweeping the Flyers in the finals, Red Wings defenseman Vladdy Konstantinov and Monsieur Sergei Manaskanov suffered brain injuries when the limo in which they're riding crashed, as the stupid limo driver didn't have a license and crashed into a fence. Slaven Fetisov was also in the limousine, but he was not seriously injured, thankfully for that. The Red Wings would subsequently dedicate their 98 season to those two injured people and wore a patch on their jerseys bearing the players' initials and all that. So the Red Wings had something to play for. The Red Wings would take care of Phoenix, St. Louis, and Dallas in 6 games each, despite the fact that Jamie Lambert had that 50-foot slapper that eluded Osgood during Game 4 of the conference finals. The Red Wings were still good. Washington would take care of Boston on a Joey Juneau overtime series winner. Took care of Ottawa in the Battle of the Capitals, as in Washington was the U.S. capital, Ottawa the Canadian capital. They took them out in 5 and took out Dominic Hasek and the Sabres in 6, thanks to an overtime goal by Joey Juneau. Regardless of that, Washington was hoping for something. And Ron Wilson, who was the head coach of the Capitals, future head coach of the Leafs, if you must know, became the first person ever to head coach in both an Olympics and Stanley Cup Finals in the same year, because he was the U.S. coach inaugural. Pierre Laviolette, would join him in 2006, coaching the U.S. team in Torino, and would coach Carolina to the Stanley Cup. In Game 1, the Red Wings would win 2-1, as they scored 2 goals within 2 minutes. Joey Kocur, somehow a goal scorer, his 4th of the playoffs from Doug Brown and Thomas Holmstrom. Nick Lidstrom would score his 6th of the postseason from Steve Yzerman and Holmstrom to make it 2-0. Washington scored a goal by Richard Sednick in the second period from Andre Nikolishin and Peter Bondra. But that was all the scoring, as Osgood did his job. And Joey Kocur, weird. So anyway, Game 2 happened, and Washington had a giant lead. Detroit scored first, Yzerman from Holmstrom and Lidstrom. Washington would score to tie the game on a Peter Bondra goal from Nikolishin and Jeff Brown. Chris Simon, who was known as a goon, would score from Jeff Brown and Dale Hunter. All former Quebec Nordiques, you must know, to make it 2-1 Washington. Adam Oates would score from Juno and Kelly Johansson to make it 3-1. Steve Yzerman scored a shorthanded goal from Fetisov and Darren McCarty. But then Juno scored on the power play from Gonchar and Bellows. Kitchener, making it 4-2. And Detroit scored with Martin Lapointe from Igor Larionov and Slava Fetisov. Unfortunately, Esa Tikkanen had a chance to score in the 3rd period. And he tried. to do it, but he missed the open net shot. Detroit would then tie it on a Doug Brown goal at 15:46, and then overtime popped in people's heads as Chris Draper would put in a goal for Martin LaPointe and Brendan Shanahan. Draper was really wide open on the side of the net. And you got to remember the call by Gary Thorne, who said the only forward who has not scored a goal, and that for every Red Wing forward had a goal until he did. Anyway, Game 3 happened, and Detroit took a 1-0 lead on a Thomas Holmstrom goal from Yzerman and McCarty. Washington would tie on a power play goal by Brian Bellows from Oates and Juneau. But Fedorov scored with less than 5 minutes left from Brown and Fetisov. This make it 2-1 Detroit, and it held up. But of course, this game on June 16th, they won 4-1. Washington did score a goal by Brian Bellows from Oates and Juneau, but sandwiched in it with the 4 goals for Detroit. Doug Brown scored the first goal of the game on the power play from Fedorov and Murphy. Oh, Larry Murphy. Detroit, Martin LaPointe made it 2-0 from Larionov and Rouse. Then Bellows scored to make it 2-1. Then Larry Murphy on the power play from Holmstrom and Fedorov. And then another power play goal by Doug Brown from Kozlov and Anders Eriksson. Remember him? They did it. The Detroit Red Wings won the Stanley Cup 4-1, quite convincingly. Washington had a chance in Game 2 to screw over the Red Wings but failed. Otherwise, Chris Osgood just played the game of his life. The games of his life. Of course, who can forget Game 4? Well, after the Red Wings won the Cup, Hal's Gary Bettman gave the cup to Steve Yzerman, and unbeknownst to many people, other than in the Red Wings organization, Vladdy Konstantinov was at the game in a press box and was brought down on the ice in his wheelchair and in a Detroit uniform to have the cup placed in his lap. And it was one of the most touching moments in history. So here are the players who got their names engraved on the cup for the 98 Red Wings. We got center Steve Yzerman, captain, Igor Larionov, Chris Draper, that famous goal in Game 2 of the finals. And also, let's not forget, Chris Draper had that injury to him that Claude Lemieux did to him. Brett Gilchrist also got his name on the cup, and Sergei Fedorov. At wing, Matthew Danilo, Doug Brown, Brendan Shanahan, Kirk Maltby, part of Cambridge, Martin LaPointe, Mike Kunubo, Dan McCarty, Joey Kosher, Slava Kozlov, and Thomas Holmstrom. So that was just huge. And on defense, Bob Rouse, who would assist on one of the biggest goals in Leaf history in 1993. Nick Lidstrom, Slava Fetisov, Dmitry Mironov, Aaron Ward, Jamie McCowan. Yeah, poor Leafs. Anders Eriksson, future Leaf, and Larry Murphy, former Leaf. So Leafs gave up on McCowan and Murphy, and they ended up winning cups. Chris Osgood was the starting goalie, with Mike Ferdinand gone from the Red Wings. Kevin Hodgson would be his backup. So anyway, they managed to get their names on the cup. Vladdy Konstantinov, his career ended in that car accident. And the Red Wings still made him part of the team and got permission from the NHL to have his name engraved on the cup. Wally Crossman, who was the dressing room assistant, was the oldest person engraved on the Stanley Cup at age 87. Can't believe he was around at 87. Detroit wanted to include 55 names on the cup for 98, but they could only be limited to 52. So anyway, yeah, Detroit did their team picture and all that. Norm Marco and Daryl LaPlante were both put on the team picture, but they did not qualify to win the Stanley Cup because of them being in the minors. So anyway, it didn't matter. CBC with Bob Cole, Harry Neal would do the series. In the U.S., Fox would broadcast Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, while ESPN would do Games 2, 3, and 4. Fox would have done Game 5 if the series was Game 5, and also Game 7, and ESPN would have done Game 6. So anyway, the aftermath is that Washington would falter badly. They had some good teams. Well, once they drafted Alex Ovechkin and he became a superstar, Washington had chances. But for 20 years, until 2018, the Capitals could not even make the conference final. They would always lose in some strange way in the playoffs in the first 2 rounds. But they did it. They slayed Pittsburgh. They got to the conference final. They won the Eastern final. They would face Vegas in the Stanley Cup Finals in 2018 and win in 5 games, giving Ovechkin a Stanley Cup. Detroit would actually get to the conference semis where Colorado was waiting for them and to get revenge for a few years of bad luck. The Red Wings would lose that series in 6 to Colorado. But Detroit didn't have to wait long for the Stanley Cup Finals. They got there in 2002 against Carolina and easily nipped them in 5. So the 98 finals were just that damn impressive. Obviously, with Konstantinov being out because of that car accident, the Red Wings had motivation, and the motivation worked. And until Pittsburgh did it in 2016 and 17, the Red Wings were the last team to repeat as Stanley Cup champions. But yeah, the Penguins did that in 16 and 17 to break that drought. And still, 98 is the last time that the Stanley Cup finals have ended in a sweep. I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.